Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to episode 224 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. I'm glad to be with you today. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to check in with us, find out what's going on in the world of the bar exam. And boy, this has been a week when it felt like finally we could take a little bit of a breath. We'd just gotten through that big moment in which we had New York, Georgia, and Texas results all out within a few days of each other. And then kind of a quiet week. Now, this week, as this episode is releasing, we're just a couple of days ahead of the big release, which is the California bar results on Friday, November 16th, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And that is typically the largest bar exam in the country. I assume that will be the case again this year. So good luck to all of you who are waiting for your California bar exam results. We hope that they're favorable and look forward to hearing some great stories as those results come out. We also know that based on everything else we've seen around the country this year, the general trend in bar results has been down and negative. And candidly, I don't have a big reason to believe it'll be wildly different in California. This continues to be the toughest exam in the country. So, kind of holding our breath and hoping for the best and recognizing that it could be a tough weekend for a lot of people. I think the one thing I would say, if you're a California bar taker from July 2018, you need to get through the process. If you don't pass, get through that grief process as rapidly as you can, as in use the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and then start your studies right away, getting ready for February 2019. The clock is not in your favor right now, and with the timing of an early Thanksgiving and a late exam release date, it makes it really difficult for people. So really just want everybody to kind of get themselves ready, do your research and your work now if you think there's a possibility you didn't pass, and then be ready to jump right back into your studies as quickly as you can. Now, I want to just let you know, if you are having to take or planning to take the bar exam in 2019, we have a special free live training for you. It's this Thursday night, that's November 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, that would be 4 o'clock Pacific. The title of our training is Do Something Different, Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. And in this 90-minute training, I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps that passing bar takers follow based on thousands of case studies. We'll hear from several students in their own words and on video about what they did differently and why it worked for them. And we'll show you step-by-step the process you want to follow. Now, this training is completely free, but you do need to register, and you can do that in one of a couple of different ways. You can go to our website at celebrationbarreview.com/webinar, or you can check out the show notes here on the video or in the audio page. Now, if you'd like to, if you're listening to this podcast and you'd like to watch it, we do have that option. Just go to celebrationbarreview.com/224. That's the episode number, and you can watch the entire episode there. Or you can check us out on audio on Apple, iTunes, on iHeart, and on Spotify, among others. So in any of those places, you will see the link for the free training. Now, if Thursday the 15th is not a good time and date for you, there's also a daily on-demand version of the same information, and you can see that button and just click on that instead. I will say that if you can come to the training on Thursday night, it's great because in addition to being a live presentation, I also do a Q&A at the end, and usually find that really helpful for people to just answer questions they've got about the bar exam and about this approach that we're teaching. So I encourage you to join me on Thursday the 15th at 7 p.m. Just go to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. Well, in today's episode, because we don't have any new bar exam results to come out, we can, again, as I say, sort of take a moment and catch our breath. And I had the opportunity last week to do an interview with a successful Georgia bar taker. And as you're going to hear, Abby's story is really wonderful. She had taken the bar exam a couple of times previously in Georgia and not been successful. She came to us and she did what we asked her to do, and she got a 43-point increase to pass. Now, that's a lot of points. I got to tell you, on the scale, that 43 points is a bunch. And the question that undoubtedly you want to know is, how did you get a 43-point increase? And as you'll hear her say, she bought into our writing style. She took advantage of photo reading. She used the paraliminals. She used mind mapping. She followed the process that we offer. And she got some coaching and mentoring from me along the way. And it's a great story of what can happen when you simply do something different. And Abby is a great experience, I think, a great indicator of what can happen when that occurs. Her story is wonderful. I think you're going to really love to hear it. So I don't want to keep you away from it any longer. So let's go ahead and jump into our interview with a successful July 2018 Georgia bar taker, Abby Potter. Welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And I have a really great story to share with you today. A student from Georgia, Abby Potter, and Abby is a new member of the Georgia Bar. Hi, and welcome, and congratulations.
Hi, Jackson. Thank you. Thank you. It feels good.
I'm so excited for you. The Georgia Bar exam in July 2018 was a train wreck for most people, and out of the debris came Abby Potter. And you survived it. And what a great story I know that you've got to tell everybody. And so I'm just really excited, but you must be like floating at this point.
Yeah, I got my results about 2 weeks ago, so the excitement has calmed down a little bit, but it's still, it's still shocking. People at work will come up to me and congratulate me, and it's still kind of weird.
Feels good though, doesn't it? It's a good
feels
weird.
good. Feels really good. Feels really good to not fail, for sure.
Yeah. So this was not your first time taking the Georgia Bar.
No, this was my third time taking the Georgia Bar.
Okay. And the first time with us? Yeah.
Yeah, first time with you guys. I took the bar right out of the first summer out of law school. Did not do well. I used sort of the big bar box review that everybody at school was using. I did not do well. I got to use the same prep course the second time because it was free, which the second time I really didn't go by their study guide or by their program. I sort of used all the things I liked about it and didn't use the stuff I didn't like about it. And I also got a tutor with them and didn't do well. I did increase my score 10 points overall. But it was, I was still far from passing. So I was scared because if I keep taking this in 10-point, increase, that those are the results, I might have to take this like 4 or 5 times. So, yeah. I knew I needed a new plan. So,
yeah.
So that's when I signed up with you guys.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to the big news first, and then we'll work our way back.
Okay.
You told me before we started, you had a total overall point increase of 43 points to pass the Georgia Bar. Okay, so it's 43 points.
I've heard those stories before, and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen to me. But it did. It did. Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. That is really extraordinary. So I think you bought into the concept that you had to do something different, right?
Right. One of I came across some of your podcasts. I remember before taking the bar the second time, I would Google things like, what should I be doing 10 days before the bar, or, last weekend prep, and your name, your stuff kept coming up. And I thought, this is the type of stuff I need, because I was kind of flying solo the second go around. And so it was nice to know that those were things other, people were thinking of, and I needed a little guidance. And so I said to myself, if I don't do well this time, I'm going to call that guy, because all the questions I seem to have, he seems to already have thought of those and be on point. So when I got the results, I called you the next day.
Yeah, and I remember it was like you'd gotten the results and you were obviously disappointed. Mm-hmm. You went to a good law school. You went to Emory, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good law school. And so it's got to feel like, what's going on here? And sure. But there was also something in your demeanor that made me think you were just really determined, that you weren't going to just keep banging your head into the same old wall. So we talked about doing things differently, right? And sure. One of the things that we discussed and that you ultimately ended up doing was using photo reading. Am I correct about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I definitely want to talk about that in a minute. But
Sure.
I think that there was this general sense of, okay, results are in, I'm going to make a decision now, I'm going to move forward and really get after it immediately. Was
Mm-hmm.
that sort of your mindset at that point?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I knew that I needed to do something different. And I had already, I guess, knew a little bit about you or and your program, and so it was an easy decision to call you. But I didn't. I had heard of photo reading. I didn't know what it was, but I enjoyed the idea, or it was I needed to do something different. And what I was doing was hanging out in my pajamas in the basement, 15 hours a day by myself, going over note cards, looking at lectures, doing outlines. And it was like, I know I'm not, you know, a stupid person, but like this just isn't clicking. I mean, how can somebody spend so much time looking at this stuff and then, get this number? And so I liked your sort of whole life wellness balance, in addition to the photo reading and the mind mapping that I learned more about once I got started with you. But I think the big change from first two times then with going with you was that I was still a real person. And I went to work every day. I signed back up to volunteer once a week, went out with friends. And I probably studied actually a lot less with your course because there wasn't memorization. There wasn't this all night studying. And so I think having sort of a better psyche and feeling better about the process was a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think so. And one of the interesting things that I saw, we did a couple of sessions. You bought some coaching time with me. You were in the basic coaching program, and then you bought some coaching time with me at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I began to see as we were doing some of that coaching was that you began to gain confidence in what you were doing. And because you weren't locked into your room every day studying and memorizing, that you had better perspective, right? That it was like,
Sure.
okay, I know this stuff. I'm learning it. I'm okay with it. And I remember in one of the calls when you told me you were volunteering and that it was just sort of helping you get outside of kind of your own little bubble, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting experience, isn't it? Instead of doing more, you can be successful by refocusing and doing less if it's just more productive.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So photo reading is a very weird thing, and of course, people ask a lot about it. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to understand photo reading and use it?
Sure. So with photo reading, I didn't know much about it, but I guess half if you did some research on it, half the people thought it like changed their life, and the other half thought it was just a total hoax.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, I knew I wanted to do something different, but I didn't want to go totally, into the deep end. So I did a little bit of research on it, and I said, well, let me at least try it. And I asked you in the beginning, I said, do I need to increase my score so much? Am I too late signing up? Because George is way late giving the results. If I'm already behind getting started studying, is learning this whole new technique, going to set me back on maybe the more important stuff? You're like, no, absolutely not. And so I did an hour, I guess it's about a 10-hour class or 10 chapters. And each chapter is an hour. And you said, first thing you do when you wake up, do an hour of that. And then, go about the rest of your studying. And I stuck with it. I got a little bit better at it each time. And I feel like it works.
Yeah. How long did it take you to read an outline when you were photo reading?
Oh, I would say 10 minutes tops.
Yeah. And so how many times would you say you read an outline or photo read an outline when you were studying this time?
Maybe 100,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, less than that, but I mean, maybe
A
I
lot.
read each chapter probably like 10 times.
Yeah.
And I think the great thing about photo reading, which was something I think I really needed to work on, was having that recall really quick.
Yeah.
And when you photo read and you're just exposed to the material, words pop out at you, you see headers, you see, bold words, and being able to make those associations on the bar exam, especially the MBE, it just, I think, helps with recall really quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's not so much that the bar is really hard, it's really hard in a short amount of time. So I
Yeah,
think
so
it was
let's
like
talk. Yeah,
it
yeah.
got
So let's
all.
talk about timing. There's 100 questions in 3 hours. Did you have any difficulty getting through the 100 questions in 3 hours in the
No,
morning?
absolutely not.
No.
No, I actually I finished early. The first time I took the bar, I did not probably finish the last 25 questions. It
Wow.
just bubbled in like D D
Yeah.
D D D all the way
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Second time I finished on time, but I was like, is that a Will's MBE question? Like, did I even study the right questions? I was like,
Yeah.
this is not going well. And then the third time, I all the questions were like very familiar. There was not anything weird about it. They were questions I think that I probably had already practiced in your class, and I was able to take a bathroom break in both morning and afternoon session, and I probably finished about 15-20 minutes early in both morning and the afternoon session. So
That's awesome. So would you recommend photo reading for people that are studying for the bar?
I would absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and it doesn't, especially for a Georgia student who's going to get their bar results. I think later than a lot of the other states. It's it's not too late.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. That's great. I think that's absolutely true. Let's talk about the Tuesday day of the exam, because in Georgia you've got the 5 essays and the two MPTs. Is it 4 essays? I'm thinking 4 essays and
Four
two.
essays. Mm-hmm.
I get so confused. All right, so we
Two,
have four
yeah, 2
essays.
in the morning and then 4 essays in the afternoon.
There you go. Okay, that's a pretty stressful day, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's the first day. You're a little nervous. Yeah, it's.
And what did it feel like for you going back? This was your third time going back into the exam. Did you feel more confident, or was it the same anxiety that you had felt previously?
No, I felt more confident. I mean, I knew where the building was. I knew where
That
parking
helps.
was.
Yeah.
I knew how to get in there. I was like, "Hey guys, I'm back."
Yeah.
So it wasn't a new setup for me. But the thing that I think that really helped me was the writing style. Was your writing style, the FLA format?
Hmm.
And I know I bugged you so much over the course of studying because if it was a brief, if it was an essay, if it was anything, it's FLA format, FLA format. And I would say, well, no, but here, this is an appellant brief. Like, I don't care, FLA format, FLA. And so it's nice to just have one method. You can use that method, MPT, essay. It doesn't matter what the subject is, what they're asking you. You just stick to the same method, and that brought me a lot of confidence because once you nail it, it's a very easy method to
Hmm.
to learn and to utilize. But it was I didn't have to. I remember my first 2 bar classes or the studying for the bar the first 2 times. There were professors that did lectures, from all over the country that I'm sure, super smart, great professors, but they didn't know about Georgia bar graders.
Hmm.
They weren't, they didn't know the specifics of how the Georgia bar graders, um, you know, grade and where you get points. And I think the thing that really made me confident was you were like, Abby, Georgia bar takers have used this method and they pass.
Yeah.
Because in Georgia, as probably most people already know, we don't get a score report, so we don't know how we did, and that's a little frightening going back in, the second or third time because you don't really even know where to start, or was it just one essay that I bombed? And so when you said to me, "Listen, Georgia students have used this method and they've passed," I was like, "All right, I'm in." So
Yeah, and I think that makes a big difference. For those that don't know, what Abby's talking about is that in Georgia, all you get is an MBE score and a final score and no other detail. So you're like, okay, so of the 4 essays and 2 performance tests, was I good here, bad here? Don't know that. You also don't know in the MBE how you compared subject by subject. So all you got is a single number. So it is about as minimal a report as you can get. It's actually the least transparent report in the country from bar examiners, and it comes late in the season. So you're like, okay, so we got to go and really go fast. Um, I think that one of the keys to your success was that you put aside what you'd done before. You went in wholeheartedly. You followed our direction. You did it. You did ask a lot of questions, which was great. And, I'm like a robot, use fact law application, use fact law, keep photo reading, right? But you did it and you kept doing it. And then we periodically talked. And I loved the strategy that you used. You bought our basic coaching package, and then you supplemented that with some a la carte hourly mentoring sessions that you and I did. I think we did like maybe 4 of them over a period of a few weeks to just kind of spot check your work. Here's some essays I'm doing, some performance tests. Here's where I am in my studies generally. Here's what's happening. And I thought that was a really effective approach from my standpoint to see what you were doing. But I presume it was helpful to you to kind of give you enough without being too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I signed up for my old bar class. I signed up for some a la carte tutoring. And I think I was talking to him like on the way home from work, or he was making dinner. I could hear like the microwave go off a couple times. I heard a horn honking, a couple times.
All right.
So when I, sign up for these hourly or, 30-minute like tutoring sessions for, a chunk of change, I was like, let me just do this one by one. Let me see, how this works. And your tutoring session, it's just like this. You've got your headphones on, it's one-on-one, you're looking at, my work. And so I really appreciated that. Having your time and being able to just go over the specifics is great. On top of the fact too, that with Celebration Bar Review, you're the one doing the lectures. Yeah. You're the one that wrote the books. You're the one that put together the MBE questions. You're the one that I'm talking to that's helping me, so on the one end, it's all about Jackson. You even kind of say towards the end, y'all are probably getting a little sick of me. And at first you're like, no, but then it's like, okay.
Yeah, I am.
Because with the other bar review courses, you've got a property person, you've got a contracts person, you've got and so they all sort of have their own tips and their own methods, right? Which I'm sure work or have worked for some people, but having you, right, through all of this, through MBE, through essays, through lecture, just sort of reinforces everything you've learned, and it's consistent. So I enjoyed that. So I enjoyed the one-on-one time.
Oh, that's good. I enjoyed our calls as well. When you finished the exam this time, it's always kind of an uncertain moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so what was it like for you to go through the waiting process again?
I was like, I felt after the MBE, I felt like I nailed it. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I don't know if I gained so much confidence that this, I shouldn't. I didn't want to jinx it, but I felt very good about the MBE. And with writing, my biggest problem in the past was not writing enough.
Okay.
And so one good thing about your writing method is that it's easy to just keep going, keep writing. You know where to go with your structure and with your essays. And so I felt like if I lost some points on some essays, it was because I didn't, write enough. Mm-hmm. But, in my head, I'm thinking I did what Jackson said. I used the FLA method. Maybe I didn't catch all the issues. Maybe I didn't, write everything that, coulda, shoulda, would. But if I wrote enough and his method works, I think I'm okay. I had no idea I would have increased, so much. But
yeah, I mean, 43 points is a lot of points. I gotta tell you, you should be giving yourself one of these because I mean that's pretty spectacular.
Well, and it also too, it was probably about like 20 and 20. My MBE went up about 20 points, and the writing went up 20 points. Fabulous. And the thing with writing too is, I didn't learn all this new law that I didn't know before. I didn't have this huge aha moment, and I can give you all the hearsay exceptions off the top of my head or can explain property to you. I think your method was the best way to get points where you may not have thought, you could have, in the first place.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So Georgia released results early in the morning without a lot of fanfare. How did you find out? And tell me what that moment was like.
So I got the email, check your Georgia Bar website. And I was like, here we go. And yeah, because Georgia's very predictable. It's like the last Friday, in October, around 11 a.m. And so I looked at the letter, and it looked like, yeah, same letterhead, same sort of format. And I was like, oh, and I put my phone, just put my phone down. And then I looked back at it again, and I could see some stuff in bold about, you got to send in your certificate or get in touch with swearing in, something like that. And I was like, whoa, let me go back. And I was like, oh my gosh, I passed. Then I, of course, had to look to like make sure they had the right name. It was the right person. Like, I'm not dreaming. I couldn't believe it. It was huge. It was huge. I cried, and like my sister called, my mom called. It was emotional.
Yeah.
And I was going to say with Jordan, the good thing it does take about, I don't know, 13 weeks to get our results. And it's kind of like, not like party time, but it is a little relaxing those first couple, maybe that first month, because it's like, all right, I don't have to study. I'm not nervous. Like I'm just sort of in limbo now,
Right.
But towards those last, couple weeks, it gets frustrating. People at work, it was tense. And other states, their results have already come out. You're already getting a little bit of feedback on like MBE, scores are the lowest in 34 years, and only 20% passed here. And so it's like, oh wow, I think having those sort of things that pop up, in the news, the articles that are written in law journals, that starts to really affect how you feel going in, because then we probably didn't get our results for another 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it's really tough for people in Georgia, California, a couple of these states at the very end. Texas, it's like the slow, release of information, and it's historic. And this year in July 2018, it's been bad news across every jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So you beat all the odds for a repeat bar taker to pass. Means that you beat the odds of a 25% pass rate for that cohort. And then when you see the increase in points, it's extraordinary. And so I know that your story, Abby, is going to inspire a lot of people. It's going to encourage a lot of people because there are people probably that are feeling like, oh my God, I'm just going to give up. It's just never going to happen. What would you say to those people in that circumstance?
I don't. I know what it's like to play the numbers game and to, compare your scores to other people at your school or other people, throughout your state. But July 17, I believe, was one of the, not easiest, but like best pass rates in a long time. Or the
It's been going, yeah, it's a little bit of a going up, and then it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah, and that's where I did my worst.
Yeah.
And then a year later, the test, there's the high low passage rate. My score went up 18 points. So I would encourage people to stick with it, to don't give up. I think that whatever it is you're doing or haven't been doing, figure out what the best course of action is for you, and really where you think you're struggling, and focus on that. But yeah. I feel like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Find your strengths and your weaknesses, but also it seems to me that the key for you was this idea to do something different, right? That if you've just been doing the same thing, then you're really susceptible to all of the stuff that's going on generally. But because you took a completely different approach to the writing, to the studying, to the MBE practice, it gave you a completely different, clean start, if you will, into the exam. Yeah.
And then also too, it's the meditation and I forget the name of it. What are they called?
The Paraliminals.
The Paraliminals.
Yeah.
They were fun. I because sleeping, getting on a normal schedule, still working part-time. I really enjoyed I would do a little bit of yoga in the evenings and then meditate. And I think that finding that sort of like inner peace and just taking the time to be quiet and to be still, and to this whole world is not about Abby taking the bar right now. There's other things going on, and just to be able to sort of like center myself and have that time helps. So I like the paraliminals, and I felt like, well, I'm sleeping and I'm getting smarter. So
there you go. It's a twofer. That's awesome. Well, I'm so pleased for you. I'm so excited. I know that it feels like a huge weight off your back, and now you're ready to move on, get your life back, and move on. What kind of law do you want to practice? What's the next step for you?
I like criminal law, medical malpractice. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm excited.
Yeah, that's great. And now you can sort of pivot and start thinking about this, world differently. So that's really exciting stuff. It is really the reason we do the work that we do, is to have moments like this where we get to enjoy and celebrate your successes. And so this is a big, big win and a great story. And as I say, I know there are many people will be inspired by it. So I really appreciate you being willing to share the story and being so open and transparent about what's happened. Any other comments or thoughts that you want to share with us?
No, I would say I also, being in your course, the Facebook groups, I
Yes.
think really helped, and your weekly seminars that you would have. I believe they were every Friday at 2 or 3, and you would have sort of a tip of the week or thought for the week. And I liked how it was a way to like check in. You'd give us, a little lecture, or, a little tip, little guidance, and then you would take questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for, people that are studying on their own, people that maybe don't sign up for extra a la carte classes, just to be able to sort of check in and know sort of where you are in this, 13-week process. So I think that helps. And, being a part of the Facebook group and having sort of a Q&A anytime you want, was great. I knew people were there to answer anything that I might need, at any time. And that was comforting.
Yeah, that's great. And I hope you'll stick around as one of those resources for people coming along. Of course. So that's one of the great things about our community, is that so many of our successful students stay and help and become cheerleaders and supporters of other people. So we're really excited to see the family grow that way. So,
Absolutely.
Well, great. Well, again, congratulations, Abby. I am super proud of you and so pleased for you. I'm excited to see where your career goes and what you do. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I think you're really a special talent, and I'm so glad that we just got this ridiculous burden off of you, and let you go. So thanks again for sharing today and being with us. To everybody in our audience, thanks for watching. I hope that you're as enthusiastic and excited about the possibilities as Abby was, and that these comments can help you figure out what to do next. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye. That's our interview today. I hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Abby is really wonderful, and I think it's so inspiring and encouraging to see someone get a 43-point increase and to figure out that they did it by just following directions, doing the things that we suggested, doing something different. And that's why we've named this free training, Do Something Different. Make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Be Abby Potter. I mean, maybe that's what we should call it. And again, it's this Thursday, November 15th, 7 p.m. live. That's 4 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be live at 4 p.m. Pacific too. How about that? 90-minute training. Love to have you join us. Go to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar to register, or you can choose the live or the taped on-demand version as well. You'll see that option when you go to the web page. So either way, we hope you'll join us for that and check it out. Now, next week in the podcast, we'll be looking at the California bar results leading up to our Thanksgiving weekend. And again, I just want to encourage everyone that's in the position where you're having to decide if you're going to take the exam in February of 2019. This is the time to begin. You need to make that decision and get started quickly. Take advantage of Thanksgiving as a study period and be ready to go. So we'll be back to you again next week. We'll have those California bar results. We'll let you know what's going on generally. That'll wrap up really the results season from July 2018, and we'll turn our full attention and focus after that to February 2019. So thanks everybody for being with us. Hope you have a great week. Good luck to everybody still waiting on their results, and we'll see you along the extra mile. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.